Today we're met with Robin with Pathway to Wellness. And if you could just take a quick minute to introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
Hello everyone. I'm happy to be here. I am a health coach and a holistic health coach who will be working with veterans and first responders with PTSD and related conditions due to limbic system impairment, which is a form of traumatic brain injury. I'll be educating them on different ways to train their brain to regulate their nervous system and ultimately achieve post-traumatic growth.
That's awesome. Yeah, you reached out to me. We got to talking. I thought it'd be really cool to see your perspective on this. So, what inspired you to start Pathway to Wellness?
What inspired me, because I've gone through a program that has helped me because I have had limbic system impairment. First was my coaches that helped inspire me in this journey. And I just want to help inspire others with the same condition. I've learned so much on my healing journey that I want to share my experience with others because there is hope and there is help, and I want to help with that. And holistic health and wellness is a big passion of mine.
That's awesome. Have you tried other holistic approaches that you found beneficial?
With this, the thing is, it's been quite a journey for a while. And I have had luck with doing yoga. I did yoga along with the program that I did. And then using the pillars of the program, learning how to kind of change my core belief system. That was a big one for me. That was not really good before, and now so much better, so much different, but it takes a lot of work. Learning to elevate my emotional state. And I did this a lot watching funny videos, shows that I like, just kind of keeping it light and just really allowing myself to relax and, just trust that the program was working for me. That was also challenging for me because it was hard for me to just let go and trust something else outside of myself to do that. But those are things that really helped support me along with doing my program.
Awesome. So what are some of the short-term goals that you have with Pathway to Wellness?
I want to work with clients remotely one-on-one to start. I also want to start getting out there and speaking with veterans and first responders about options they have and working with PTSD to achieve post-traumatic growth and how I can be of help to them with that.
Oh, wow. I'll have to introduce you to a friend, Abigail. She's a spokeswoman and has a really cool story. I don't know.
Good.
Yeah, she's connected me with a lot of people that have joined the podcast and have been really helpful. And I like to return the favor for both of you. I think it'd be a really good connection.
That sounds great.
Awesome. So giving back to veterans and first responders, what inspired you to give back to that group?
Well, veterans have given us so much, and it just feels so good to be able to give back to them. And you, of course. And I have the mindset that if this happened to me, it could definitely be happening to them. And if the root cause is through limbic system impairment, there's a fix for that. And I feel that there's some gaps in the treatment that they're getting, and I'm trying to help fill those gaps by educating and coaching them through this process of rebalancing.
Okay. Well, let's dive into that a little bit more about your healing journey. If you don't mind, just let's start from the beginning, and real curious about some of the things that you learned, some things that you like to teach others and help others learn.
Sure. So I have pretty much always had anxiety since I was little. There were times where I would have some seasons of calmness, and then there were times of season of just pure anxiety, anxiousness, not really knowing how to handle it. And in 2008, I had what they call a perfect storm with just weird symptoms that came after some stressful events in my life that I could not get answers to what was happening. And of course, having symptoms like that was causing even more anxiety. So in 2014, I became a health coach to try to heal myself and to help others. It helped, but I never felt like I could achieve 100% health and wellness. In 2020, I had my second perfect storm and more unexplained symptoms came up. I went from doctor to doctor, not knowing. I would go in so hopeful and then I would leave so deflated because I would leave with a sample of anti-anxiety medication or an antidepressant and they would say, well, you have anxiety. And it's like, well, yes, I know that, but I don't know how to fix it.
Right.
So I was getting no answers and I pretty much wanted to give up on life because I just did not want to live life with feeling as sick as I was and not knowing how to fix it. But through what I call divine intervention, I was listening to a podcast about one of the conditions I had at the time, and the doctor talked about the limbic system in the brain. He said, usually you have to work with the limbic system first, or the other treatments for that particular condition are not going to work. That's how I started learning more about the limbic system and what it does in the body. It's basically the emotional center of the brain, but it controls so much in your body. It governs your immune system, your digestive system, your endocrine system, hormones, and more. So it started like it was pieces of the puzzle that started to come together for me. So I started looking at programs to help the limbic system because I started learning that, hey, there are some things you can do to try to fix your limbic system or rebalance it. And that's how I found the program that I did. So in summary, it was a very long and bumpy road, but once I found the right path, things fell into place and I was able to rebalance my nervous system.
Awesome. What were some things that this program, and we keep referencing this program, if you don't have any issues with it, what program did you use? I know there's different programs for this, but what was the one that you went to that worked for you?
The one I did is Dynamic Neural Retraining System. They call it DNRS. I liked the program because it has a lot of structure, and that's what I needed at the time. So there's certain pillars to the program. Basically, one, realizing that this is not our fault. It's a injury. It's a brain injury. So that is something that, first of all, I feel sets you up for success in the program and in life, because when you get a label of PTSD, it's pretty heavy. And when I first was diagnosed with that, I kind of blamed myself thinking, oh, like, why can't I handle things better? How did I let it get to this? But through years of chronic stress and trauma, things like this happen. And knowing that, hey, it's not my fault. Like, this is just a natural thing that can happen to your brain. Like, you didn't cause this. It happened. So learning that in itself really helped me support myself through the program. I also learned how to be consistent with the practices that you're taught in the program. Now, there are other ways, of course, to achieve rebalancing your brain and your limbic system. But again, I really liked the structure of the program and what things that it was teaching me. And I also hired a coach through the process. 6 months into the program, I did hire a neuroplasticity coach, and that was very good for me to do that.
Mhm.
Because as you're going through the program and you're training your brain, things are changing, things are shifting because of the natural way that the brain is healing. And it's kind of scary because you don't know, you don't understand why all this stuff is happening. So it was awesome that my coach was there to guide me and say, no, it's okay. This is what's supposed to happen. That reassurance just was really good. Um, so yeah, just learning things and the program, let me just explain a little bit about the program, if that's okay, how it
Okay.
works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, in the beginning, when you can either get a version, I don't know if they still do a DVD version, but you can also just download it. Like when you sign up, you have access, you log in and you have access to it immediately. So you can either do it that way or through DVDs. And I purchased the DVDs when they were offered just because I wanted to always have them to refer to. I think if you do it the other way, you only have access to the account for a certain amount of time. It's a pretty long amount of time, but I still wanted to have the DVDs always.
Hmm.
So what it is, I think it's the equivalent of 14 hours of video instruction. It's 4 days worth of video that you look at. And it just teaches you about why this happened, what it is, how to fix it. It gives you the steps that you need to go through in order to do this. And then after that 4 day immersion, I guess, in the program, you just have to do the work. And they tell you that to do it at least for 6 months.
Hmm.
That was a little tough because at the 6 month mark, of course, a lot of people and myself are kind of like, okay, are we recovered? Like, what do we do? But unfortunately, for me, I still had to keep going. For me, it was, I'm a little over 2 years, but the results I now have are nothing short of amazing.
Right.
When I think back to 2 years ago, I just can't believe how different I feel, how good I feel, and how balanced I am. So it's the program, yes, definitely helped set me up for that. But the work that I put into it is what got me to where I am. So one other thing I do want to say
Hmm.
is all through my healing journey, I was always looking for someone else to heal me. I was putting my faith in doctors or practitioners thinking, okay, this is going to be that golden ticket. This is what's going to help. But what the program taught me and my coach taught me is you heal you. You can't expect anyone else to do that for you. And once I finally was able to let myself believe that, like, hey, I really can do this, it all changed.
Right.
So I just wanted to put that in there.
No, I like that. It's something that I feel too. Like I'm like, if I broke my brain, I can fix it, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it also gives me control, or feel like I'm in control a little bit, which is definitely something
Yes.
that I think is empowering. Uh, so I was going to ask you, your routine before this training and after this training, did anything really change? Is there things that you do now
Yes.
that are beneficial that you didn't do before?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, before I would watch the news. I would basically get what I call now triggered from a
Hmm.
lot of things, and I didn't have boundaries. I was the perfectionist, the people pleaser. I had all of those tendencies, and a lot of them are attributed to this limbic system imbalance. I didn't have a lot of energy, but I kept pushing myself. And so now, in contrast, I have boundaries. I do not push myself. I can if I want to, because now I have abundant energy and I love it. but I know that it's not good to be going through life always pleasing others and not yourself. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't want to make people happy, and it's not that I don't want to help, but I'm not doing it at my expense
Hmm.
anymore. Like if it doesn't feel good, I'm not doing it. I don't watch the news. I don't go on social media as much as I used to. Like I my world is different, and I definitely still need to keep branching out, but now I'm doing it. I have a filter in a sense of, is this good for me before I do it? I just don't, well, I have to be honest, I've never been an extreme risk taker, but now it's kind of like I put myself first, and I definitely won't do something if it's not going to make me happy, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, it does. I used to have the same guilt from prioritizing myself and still have issues with it a bit. But, when I say prioritizing myself, there's a list of things that I like to do every day or, frequently and often because it puts me in the right state of mind. It makes me feel healthy, makes me feel happy, helps address
Mm-hmm.
any type of minor insecurities that I may have, like working to be a better person, but I realize once I'm able to do those things, then I'm a better version of me for everybody else. So in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, I am still prioritizing others, but in a roundabout way by addressing my stuff first. So I find it very useful and awesome to do it that way. Um, I was going to ask you about the medication that you mentioned earlier. I didn't have any really good experiences with it, but that's me personally. I just did you have good experiences with medication, or were you just like, oh, this really isn't my jam? And that's what it like. I'm kind of curious what led you to the path that you took. Like, it seemed like the life coach was awesome, but it didn't quite get you to where you wanted. The medication didn't quite get you there. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
was it that was like driving you to keep going, to find more? Like, what about, like, what, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way to articulate it. What were you still
I think I
seeking?
know.
Where was
I
the
think I
hole?
know what you're
Okay,
saying. Yeah.
shoot.
So as far as medication, first, I don't want to, how should I say this? There are times when medication is extremely beneficial, and I am not going to say to anyone, do not do it.
Right.
You have to do what works for you. But as far as my experience with medication, it wasn't very good. Um, I I was on an anti-anxiety medicine for quite a while.
Hmm.
I'm now thankfully off that. But I when I tried a SSRI, I actually ended up in the emergency room because the symptoms just were not good. They were very scary. I had no idea what was happening.
Mm.
So I was told, this isn't good for you. Please don't do it again. So, but that's just me. I didn't react well to it. Um, as far as what led me to this program, my symptoms this time around in 2020 were so intense and so bad that, again, I just felt like I didn't want to live anymore. Like I didn't know what to do. I kept trying, having a holistic background as a health coach. I was trying to single out holistic practitioners that in my mind should have known where to go with me, like how to help. And everybody I tried, they would get me some of the way, but when it came down to it, I wasn't seeing results, and I was just getting sicker and sicker. Honestly, the last, and who is still my practitioner today for general health and wellness, she's a functional medicine health. She's a nurse practitioner, but a functional medicine practitioner. She also had in her office a nutritionist. She doesn't practice anymore, unfortunately, but she was amazing. When I first saw her, desperate, desperate for answers, excuse me, I sat with her for an hour. Now, she was a nutritionist, but it almost felt like she was a holistic type of therapist in a good way. She picked up on things about me that I didn't recognize in myself. And we talked about my childhood, my past, just not diving in very deep, but just kind of touching on the surface. And she helped me realize that there were things in my childhood that may have been adverse childhood experiences that I never really even acknowledged. I never thought that I had anything like that in my past. I mean, obviously, I'm aware of things that happened in my past, but I never realized that they would affect me later in life because apparently they weren't dealt with very well. And she talked to me about there's certain coping mechanisms that I seem to have. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just not serving me well. And she just opened my eyes and to what may be happening. Now, of course, at that point, I still didn't know about limbic impairment, but she helped me, and the functional nurse practitioner helped me get a little closer to find out about limbic impairment. So when I look back and see the pieces of the puzzle, it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's why certain things had to happen the way they did. Because one of the things I was diagnosed with was mold illness, which gives you what they call CIRS, which is chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And my body was severely inflamed. My brain was inflamed. Like my brain would literally burn. And when I asked them, they're like, yes, that unfortunately comes with this, with the CIRS. And when I started looking up, I mean, I'm going to be honest here. When I guess you could call me an analytical person. Mm-hmm. So when you tell me a certain condition that I have, of course, I'm going to go on Google and look at it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the bad thing about that is you find a lot of information you probably don't need or shouldn't be looking at. But in this case, that's what led me to that particular podcast. The podcast was about mold illness, and that's when the doctor said, well, with mold illness, you really need to balance your limbic system before you can be treated for mold illness. And that's when things really started to fall into place for me. Is that what you were asking?
No, that's awesome. Yeah. It touched on everything and led me to a nice little segue into something we spoke about earlier about limbic system and therapy and how you may not want to go after therapy before you start addressing the limbic system.
Yes.
And why is that?
Now, again, I want to preface this by saying therapy is not a bad thing. I think it's a very good and supportive thing. However, as you just said, when you have limbic system impairment, it's not recommended, and this is why. When you have limbic system impairment, your brain is stuck in the fight or flight response. At that point, you're just trying to survive. When you go to therapy and talk about your trauma, you're reliving the experience. Every time we think or talk about our trauma, we're producing the same chemistry in our brain and body as if it was happening again. This means your stress hormones are surging through your system, and your brain adapts to that and does not know how to shut that off. The feeling of stress and fear become normal to your brain because you're always on high alert, even when there is not a threat. Your brain does not know the difference if you're just thinking about the event or if it's really happening in the present moment. The maladaptive neural pathways are lit up, and when you talk about it or think about it, it keeps you in the fight or flight response, which then strengthens the maladaptive pathways that are keeping you sick. So therapy in itself is definitely not a bad thing, but in this condition, it's just not recommended until you rebalance.
Right. So I imagine that you spent quite a bit of time in the fight or flight. Did you notice after rebalancing, getting into a healthier state of mind, your energy levels going through the roof, having more energy? Because I don't know about you, but I spent a great deal of my time before getting therapy help, realigning my mental state. I was always exhausted.
Yeah. From what I've learned, when you're in survival mode, it takes so much energy away from you. Like it takes so much energy for your body to be in survival mode because your body's just trying to survive. Your brain is protecting you from threats, even if they're not there. So you are depleted. I had symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome because I had no energy, but I didn't realize the connection. I didn't even know I was in survival mode. So after I started rebalancing, I wouldn't say it was a big surge of energy. It took time.
Right.
But now when I look at all that I can accomplish in the day and I'm okay, like I don't feel bad. Like I don't feel like I have to rest as much. It definitely gradually got better and it's going to continue to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful for that because I hated not having energy because of course, like you said, you have a certain amount of things during the day you want to get done. And that's frustrating when you set out goals for yourself and you can't achieve them because your energy just won't let you. And
Right.
that's a stressor in itself. So yes, as I was in the process of rebalancing, like I said, it took a little time to kind of get to where I am now, but I love it. It's awesome. I don't have to worry about, like they say in the program, you kind of measure your energy. Like your old way of thinking would be like, well, I can't do this because I don't really have the energy for that. Or I can only exercise for a little bit because then I'm going to get tired. I don't have to do that anymore. I have the freedom to just do what I want.
Right.
And it's awesome. I
That
love
is
it.
awesome. You mentioned earlier changing your core beliefs. If it's not too personal, what were some of the core beliefs that you see in a different perspective now?
Oh, this was a big one for me. It was so, my coach would also tell me, it's all in how you think about things. You have to change your core beliefs. And at first, for some reason, I guess I was just stuck in the old patterns. I just had a hard time grasping that. So some of the beliefs were just having the belief that I could get certain things done or that I could achieve certain things in life. I guess because of always being in survival mode or for being in survival mode for so long and not having enough energy, I just didn't see a life for myself where I could do what I wanted, eat what I wanted. I just fell into a mindset that was so limited. My world was so small. So now a lot of what helped me with my core beliefs were affirmations. And I do credit my coach for this somewhat because that was one benefit of going through a coach because she would help me create custom affirmations for whatever specific thing that I was going through at the time. Like something as simple as repeating to myself, I can do this. I'm so proud of myself. Like that helped me. That little phrase helped me so much because if there was something like if I didn't have enough energy to exercise, I would say to myself, no, it's okay. I can do this. I'm so proud of myself. And I would just continually repeat that. And I guess in a sense, the core beliefs are also, for me, I equate it to kind of nurturing your inner child because when you are in survival mode, I know for myself when I was younger, I didn't know how to nurture my inner child. Like growing up, I was always on high alert and I just put my body through a lot, of course, not intentionally, but because of this condition.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really knew how to parent myself. So I equate learning new core beliefs on a way to kind of parent myself, to be there for myself when I feel like I can't do something, or if I get down on myself because I made a mistake, I reparent myself to say, no, it's okay. You can do this, or it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. Like just things like that. I hope that makes sense,
No, it
but
does. Absolutely.
it's helped me. In the program, they say that your limbic system is the equivalent of a 3-year-old. So to me, that's how the inner child comes into this,
mm-hmm.
because your limbic system is still reverting back to that little 3-year-old version of you. And now I'm nurturing that little 3-year-old version of myself. And we're growing together in a sense.
That's awesome. A healthy mental balance. It's never ending. You know, it's like some days are awesome, some days aren't. Some days we're disciplined and we do everything in a consistent fashion and it continues to grow. Some days we slack. It's almost like me and eating. You know, it's like, sure, I had chocolate cake the other day. That's all right. But what are like some things that you see in the future that you like to improve? Maybe some things that you would like to add. What's the next step for you?
Right now, I'm diving in deep to the term post-traumatic growth and how that relates to what's on the other side of post-traumatic stress disorder, and how you can even achieve post-traumatic growth even while you're experiencing symptoms of post-traumatic stress. For me, learning more about this, it's so helpful because it's sort of in line with what I learned from the DNRS program, and I didn't realize that. So it's really strengthening it. It's helping me with my healing process, as well as when I put it all together, I can't wait to help others with this. So that is a big thing that I'm throwing myself into, and it's going really good. Last time when we talked also, I brought up about Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has a lot of meditations that he has about visualizing your future. Again, part of the DNRS program was based on some of his work. In the future, when I'm not using the program anymore, I may want to try some of his meditations and just kind of see where that takes me, how I feel with them. I really like his work, and there's research on some of his work that it's just amazing, the conditions that people are healing from. So I think that would be a good natural next step, something to look into.
Sorry, I was just writing a note down. So meditation and breathing, is that something that you found beneficial?
It is now that I've rebalanced. You know, in the beginning, I was religiously doing just a regular meditation with breathing. It wasn't very long, but obviously I couldn't sit still. My mind was so crazy. I shouldn't say crazy. It was active. It was just, I couldn't understand why I couldn't focus. But obviously, because I had an injury, I didn't realize. So now it makes sense. But of course, at the time, I'm like, why isn't this working? I'm trying to calm myself, but now I know why it didn't. So, but now that I'm rebalanced, I do have some deep breathing exercises that I do, and it definitely helps calm my nervous system. Yeah. The meditations that I do now are just from the program. So, but I like it. I do think that helps me a lot.
Yeah. There's just something that jumped out to me when you said breathing. I haven't thought about it in a long time. And it was when I started down this path, and I realized when I was really stressed or anxious or like high alert, because my problem was, I guess it was threat avoidance. I was always locked into avoiding threats, even though there wasn't a threat around. So when I was able to walk it back to threat awareness and then eventually just back to like normal, that was my breath. I noticed that it was really short and choppy. And once I was
Mm-hmm.
able to lengthen that and get it back to like a normal breath, and it was like almost immediately I was calmer, and it was like, it seems to be like the first step, or at least one of the cues that I'm like, oh, okay, I need to take a moment, detach from the situation and reevaluate. But lastly, I was just going to ask: is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to discuss?
One thing I just wanted to add about when you said that the amount of healthy mental balance seems to be never ending. I mean, yes, that statement is 100% true. However, I do want to explain something with this to give a little hope. Keeping ourselves in a healthy mental state definitely takes work, and we're humans having human experiences. So even after we rebalance, hard things are going to happen, but we will be more equipped to handle them. And it won't be as hard to bounce back when we understand, like I said before, that this is not our fault. PTSD is not our fault. It's normally the result of an imbalanced nervous system. Our brain is always working to protect us, and over time, with repeated stress and trauma, we form those maladaptive pathways in our brain because our brain adapted to that stress and trauma. And that's when we start to feel imbalanced. In a sense, the nervous system doesn't feel safe.
Mm.
So when your nervous system is hypersensitive, it definitely takes more work to calm yourself and help your nervous system feel safe. But once your system is not in that hypersensitive mode anymore, it'll be much easier to calm yourself and you will bounce back quicker because of your knowledge and tools that you have to help keep yourself balanced. So yes, in a sense, anyone is always going to have times of having to work with themselves through, there could be grief or something happened at work that you don't like, or things are always going to happen that where we wish didn't, of course. But with the tools that we can gain and learn, they will help us get through those bad experiences in a better way. So I
Right.
just want to give some hope to that.
Absolutely. And just to clarify a little bit more for the phrase, for what I was thinking when I said it too, is never ending, because I never thought that I would be at this level. This, like, my mental health would be this well, and I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, if that's achievable, then maybe I can be better than this. So then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, so let's try more things to see if I can improve it further, because
Right.
I never thought I'd wake up and not have suicidal ideations. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like now I wake up and I'm usually pretty chipper to get up as long as it's not too early. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
this is like, okay, like this is awesome. And then, like you said, tools, like I have tools now. So it's like the negatives don't last, because like
Right.
I have things that I can do that can improve that mental state. Uh, Man, there was another one. I currently I'm kind of diving into a bit of ego, like big ego, and I feel like that's something that I'm struggling with as a person. And I feel like once I address that issue, I might find another level that I wasn't aware of. And it's because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like our ego is us, and it's always trying to trip us up, or it always is tripping
Mm-hmm.
us up, because we know what we want to do, what things make us feel well. And it, like, for some reason, we just don't do it, and it's usually because, for my experience, I've talked myself into doing something else. And it's like, yeah, we knew that this wasn't going to work, yet we did it anyway. So that's where I'm at. And that's the next step. But,
Yeah.
yeah. So how do we support you? How do we help you in your journey? Is there anything like we can follow you on Instagram? You're
Yes.
on my Instagram. Is there anything else that we can do to help support you on your journey?
I appreciate that. Right now I'm still kind of building my business. So, and like I said, social media and me are not the biggest of friends. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better with that. I'm in the process of constructing my website. So right now, Instagram is the best place to connect. But in the future, I'll definitely be branching out more with a website and probably other things. But right
Right.
now, like I said, I'm just in the beginning stages of creating this. So um,
Well, awesome.
Instagram is where it's at for now.
Sweet. And I will tag you in the show notes for that.
Okay.
And yeah, in the future, if there's ever anything I can do to help in any way, let me know. And yeah, with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.